Hey everyone, before we get to this week's show, this is just your weekly reminder to please continue to pray for my wife, Lindsay. She is battling breast cancer right now, and we're praying for complete healing in Jesus' name. Thank you.
I did notice a darkness in my window, so before I looked totally over and saw the head of a massive wolf running alongside of my truck looking in at me, and I had my windows down both sides. It was a nice day.
So it's running alongside the truck with you while you're driving?
Yeah, he was clawing at my door and trying to pull the handle. The doors were locked, but the window was down. I think he was maybe testing the glass, I don't know. What I saw was not human and not an animal. I carry a gun with me always. I'm a concealed carrier for many, many years. And I said, watch this. And I pulled it and shot twice. When that happened, it went down and it came to rest, and I could see the whole body, and it was a werewolf, like you would see on Van Helsing, a man's torso, sort of a mishmash of man and wolf. And I get pulled in the way station, and there's two guys, and they say, we have some information that we need to talk about, and that I said, well, you killed our asset. And I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't kill him. And then I'm like, they gave me a lot of instructions about not talking about it anymore. And they said, it's just a matter of Homeland Security. So it was Homeland Security.
Joe Barger here. Is that how you pronounce the last name, by the way? Barger, right?
Yeah,
okay. I wasn't sure if it's Barger or Barger. Barger. Okay. Yeah. Joe Barger here in studio. How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm great.
I'm glad you're here. So
glad to be here too.
Listen, we got to.
It's been a long time since we tried to do this.
Yeah.
It's been 3 years.
So there's this phrase that I've been saying recently: God's time, God's time, God's time, and this is one of those times I would just say God's time.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if what we're about to get into would have been gotten into in the same vein 3 years ago than it would today.
No.
And maybe not. I don't know. But I just know that a lot of times I look back at things and like, oh, that was God's timing. So just to kind of give people a brief overview of how you and I got connected, and you can feel free to correct me if my memory is flawed on certain things.
Okay.
But one, people, there are people who have heard your story, but I don't know if anybody's heard your story plus some of the other things we're going to talk about today all in one shot. And I know on my platform, it's a different type of platform than a lot of the different platforms you've been showing up on. And and so I'm excited about having this opportunity to talk with you. You came to a conference that I was at 3 years ago, I think it was, and I'm in a side room, and I think I maybe even asked you if you had seen a Dogman or something like that, and you're like, yeah, and then and what you're about to tell us today, you shared with me, and I was like, holy crap, and you were just like straight face. With matter of fact, this is what happened. It is what it is. Kind of. I was like, holy cow. Was that the first time that you were that weekend? Were you talking about it to people?
You were actually the first person I told the whole story to. And there was a few others after that.
Yeah.
In that conference. But you were basically the first one. Other than before that, I did have my story on Monsters 911.
That's right.
Lance Armstrong, he narrated it.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to.
Lance Hightower. Armstrong, Hightower. It's understandable.
Yeah. Lance Hightower. But yeah. And then it was, I can't remember the other guys, but now their names. But yeah, I was encouraged to talk about it.
Yeah.
Then, and that was the only time I had mentioned, with Lance Hightower. He's the only guy I talked to for 4 years about it.
And so, like this story you're about to tell, it's a very dramatic story. I mean, killing a monster is something that most people don't have the opportunity to do, let alone believe could ever even happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And it's a wild story. And so I'm assuming you sat on it for years and you didn't really want to talk about it.
No, because I was being suppressed by, the powers that be.
Right.
And we know that's, kind of black operations in the government. So, yeah.
So, I before we get too lost on the weeds of it.
Yeah, but that's kind of one of the biggest reasons. And that, who's going to believe it? I mean,
this guy.
I was having a hard time believing it myself, and it happened to me.
Yeah.
At first. So
I guess you need to find the right group of people that are wired to hear something so dramatic.
Yeah. And I thought, well, why mention it? Even what's the point? Why, it happened to me and I just got to deal with it. It's my thing and my thing alone,
Right.
That's how I felt about it, And my sister actually encouraged me to talk about it, and it would be therapeutic to do that. That's why I called Lance Hightower, and he said, and I talked to him about it. He said, "What, can I put this on my show?" And I'm like, "Nah, I don't really want to, be out there like that." And he said, "Well, can I narrate it and not mention your name, not anything about where it was or anything?" I'm like, "Sure." I was like, "That's fine." And he did a very good job at creating how I explained it to him from his notes, so the inflections and everything, he did a pretty spot on representation of how I explained it to him, and that was therapeutic.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, but that got on the radar still, and they did, because well, I don't know if you want to go down that rabbit hole yet.
I say we probably go into the story and then let the details of the story define the rabbit hole, and then we can go down that hole then. But I feel like we should probably start from the beginning and share with people this experience. And you had other things that happened to you, which we can dive down the rabbit hole of why you, but I think what we should probably do is talk about what happened the night that you had to do this, and what brought you to the table at the conference, which, by the way, it was Josh Turner's conference. I can't remember the name of the conference, but it was like a Dogman conference.
It was just a Dogman conference, and the only one that specifically related to Dogman. Yeah, that I've ever heard of. I think that's ever been specifically dedicated to Dogman, and that was 5 years after my encounter about that.
Man,
yeah.
So 5 years removed, we see you at the conference. You tell this story, so let's get into it. Where does this story start for you?
Well, that day of this specific encounter was early June of 2017. The first week or so in June. And I'm a truck driver. I was driving a semi, and I was picking up a heavy load of paper, about 41,000 pounds of paper rolls, from a mill up there near, it's from out of Filer City is what the name
Michigan.
of it. Michigan. Yeah. And, I was bringing it back. I was just bringing it back to our terminal that's near Kalamazoo at that time. And as I was coming back, I was just a normal day, but I was having air leak issues with my truck. And so I'm looking at my air and I'm losing my air, on my gauge. I'm looking at it and as I'm losing it fast. My truck is keeping up with the compressor's keeping up. It keeps building it back up, but it's losing it so fast. It's just too fast. So I'm like, I got to find a place to turn around. I'm in the middle of Manistee National Forest, coming back. It's a 2-lane road, and it's just woods and some houses spotted here and there in a few tiny towns. But so I remember, because I've done that route before, I found a place where I think like snowplows turn around at or something. It's a wide area off the side of the road. And I thought, well, I can pull in there, and check my air, see if I can fix it or if I got to call service. I usually carry whatever I can for anticipated breakdowns, so I don't have to wait on service. So I get out of my truck and I stop in that turnaround. What I did is I looped around. So because it's on my left side, so it's kind of like not supposed to be a thing you should do because it's dangerous. But there's nobody on this road, And
what time of day was it?
It's like 7:30 in the evening.
Okay.
It's still plenty, how in the summer it's 9:30, 10 before it's dark. It's still plenty of daylight. But I made that illegal turn, but I kind of had an emergency kind of happening here. I'd rather do that, and there's nobody on this road. So I make that turn and I get in there and I find out that I do have an air leak on my trailer near the rear brake chambers, and it's a cut. It's a small cut in my airline. So I have these things I cut it and put this nipple on it and, clamp it down. It's temporary, but I can get going and get out of there. It took me like less than 5 minutes to do it. Grab my stuff but while I'm there, there's all this going on in the woods that right next to me, maybe 30 to 40 feet away from me. I mean, it's kind of close. And I'm looking in the woods and I can see shadows passing through the brush and the thickets and everything. And I'm thinking it's a bear, is what I think it is, because it just looks like what's going on. And there's noises, and I heard a metallic sound and things were getting really, my perception of reality was changing a little bit. Like this metallic sound happened, and then it was almost like I was in an echo chamber. Not echoes. It's hard to explain, but it's not. Was it kind of almost like a muffled hollow sound? Like kind of like almost like a whoa. Yeah. Okay. With maybe a slight echo. I don't know. It's really, really bizarre to try to explain it. But it's like a distortion though, like some kind of like audible distortion, spatial distortion. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And at that time, I'm like, I didn't know what was going on. I never felt like that before. And I thought, am I getting sick? Am I having a stroke? I don't know what is really, I've never felt this sensations like this. And even visually was looking, I didn't feel like I was sick or having any medical issues. It was just everything just kind of like changed, and it's a change I can't even explain. Its colors were seemed a little off, and than they should be, and things. Yeah, it was really bizarre. While you were under the trailer. Well, yeah. This stuff was as I was fixing this was going on too, and as I was noticing that. What I thought was at the time it was a black bear. I was thinking, well, I'm gonna just get this done. I'm gonna get out of here, and not even I get back in the truck, and that all those sensations kind of like dissipated. Then it was like, okay, everything's copacetic, I guess it seems. I don't know what that was about, but I get going here and I check my air and my air's holding. And so I have to make this U-turn again to keep going the way I was going, right? So I made sure that was all good. And, and I make that U-turn safely and I get back on the highway and I'm at the bottom of a hill too. And I'm heavy. So I can't go any faster than 25 going up this hill until I get to the top of it. Yeah. It's a pretty good grade, I don't know what the percent of grade, but it's pretty good. And so I'm going 25 miles an hour and checking my mirrors and got my hazards on and, I'm doing my thing. And I look and I was at the time I was in a day cab and I'm in peripheral vision. I could see like a shadow pass my windows. I didn't think a lot about it
as you're driving up the hill.
I'm driving, and then I look over again. And I look at my mirror. I did notice a darkness in my windows, though. Before I looked totally over and saw the head of a massive wolf running alongside of my truck, looking in at me, and I had my windows down both sides. It was a nice day. And he's looking at me and he's grimacing at me and showing his teeth. And
so it's running alongside the truck with you while you're driving?
Yes.
Okay. So it's like literally as if somebody was trying to jump into the truck with you.
Yeah. He was clawing at my door and trying to pull the handle. The doors were locked, but the window was down. He did, as he was looking at me and looking inside the cab, he brought his hand inside, just his hand. He has a hand and it looks like it's a huge raccoon hand, and claws that are, not nails, but like claws, like a raccoon, if you can imagine that. Just the size of my steering wheel hand, or close to it, and as he pulls away from it, I think he was maybe testing the glass, I don't know. It just seemed that way, and it wasn't there, and he just pulled back.
So you're suggesting that what you're seeing had intelligence of what the truck was, how it operated, essentially.
Yeah, and I could tell he was flipping the door handle too, like and there was scratches on my door, and he ripped the rubber weather stripping on the top. And as he pulled his hand back, it kind of ripped it a little bit, and I had claw marks on my door. And so after that was happening, I just didn't know what was going on in my world. I'd never heard of a Dogman. I knew about werewolves, and that's what it looked like. And it had to be at least 10 feet tall because I'm at 9 feet in that truck, and he is stooping over, bending down to look at me as he's running, and he's moving so slow. I mean, not so slow, but so like it's not slow. What it is sleek and fluid,
like smooth,
that it was almost cat-like. And, and he was looking at everything in my truck, and his eyes were darting around and everything. And this is all happening within seconds. There's just a million things within seconds. And as I was looking at him, he had a look in his eyes that I assume that I don't know, but what I saw was not human and not an animal. Not even close to an animal, really. I mean, even other than the outward look of the werewolf, in the eyes, it was supernatural, human looking. intelligence going on in the eyes. And he had his tongue hanging out. He did have a scar on his snout. And his eyes were yellow, like a bright amber, solid black. He had a mane, like a sort of like a lion mane, but not quite as big, but down, what I could see at this point. I could just see his head and part of his hand at this time, this is all I could see at this point. And I'm still trying to get up this hill and I can't go any faster.
It's a manual truck right now that you're driving?
This happened to be, I had just got in an automatic at this time. It's
one less thing I have to worry about in this moment.
I had just got in. I was in the stick trucks for that. Before that, I think I had that truck about 6 months.
Okay.
And I was still getting used to the automatics because it's a whole different kind of, as you know too. But
and let me just. I don't know if this is relevant or not, but it might be. Going uphill in an automatic truck with 41,000 pounds, you wish you had a manual at that moment because you would be able to control the RPMs a lot more.
Yeah.
And so you probably had no control of even trying to go faster or downshifting, none of that.
Yeah, I don't know at that point. I don't even, where my head was at, I don't even know if I would even thought of it because I was wild. Just in such a, I don't know, a state of, it was fear, of course, because this thing is trying to get in here or something and yank me out.
Do you think it wanted to get you?
I think so, because what happened as this progressed, I'd say this all happened within 10 seconds. Okay. All of this stuff of me noticing the Dogman running next to me and everything that's going on, me trying to process it and keep the truck on the road and keep it going. I got this message. I don't think it was my own voice or my own internal thought. But I got this message. I got you, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Like a telepathic message.
Yeah,
wow.
It don't seem like it was me that came from. I've never had that happen before. I got you, and there's nothing you can do. And then at that very instant, I carry a gun with me always. I'm a concealed carrier for many, many years, and I didn't have my gun on me because the gun I was carrying around at the time was that
right on the table.
It was kind of in summertime. That's hard to conceal. Mm-hmm. So I had that strapped on my seat.
So you had it strapped on your seat?
On my seat, right here. And I had a cooler on that side. So you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
And the cooler was too high for you to see it from that way or this way or any way. But I could grab it straight right here and pull it. And so I said, I thought to myself, and I think God was with me in all of this, all the way through this to this day, and even before, always is. But I said, watch this. And I pulled it and shot twice faster than he could react. Because I practiced and I'm pretty good, mm-hmm. with weapons since I was a kid. And it's kind of my pastime anyway. Just as a hobby, collect and shoot, and it's my off time way of releasing, tension too. It feels good to go out and just shoot things, right?
Yeah,
it does for me.
I agree.
Yeah. And so it's a good tension reliever, And so when that happened, it went down.
So you pull this out, and this is a Colt 45, right?
It's Colt 45 and 410. It'll shoot. You
pull it out, and you point blank in the face, 2 shots.
2 shots, and because I do practice pulling that. Almost every day when I strap a gun on, I'll pull it a time or two, just to make sure I got, my muscle memory still, going on the way it should, and got my sights lined up when I look at my sights, and so it's just a practice thing. It's just what I've done for many years, and I can shoot a lot of things from the hip because I've done I don't even have to really have my eye on the sight, Jenny can tell you, she's seen plenty of it too, so, but I just pulled it as fast as I could pull it, shot 2 shots. And of course I'm in a day cab and no ear protection, and my ears are ringing after that, and it went down, and I believe I hit it in the eye. I believe I did, because it was kind of like, as I pulled it, I shot even before, I was thinking, watch this. And I wanted to do it before it could make a move. And I kind of shot once before I even looked. And then by the second shot, it looked like I was hitting him in the eye. He didn't even have time to react. It was so fast.
So you think the first shot hit him in the eye?
I think so. I think the second shot did too.
Okay, gotcha.
I think both of them did.
Wow.
And I had solid copper 45 Colt rounds in it, and they were actually even more lethal than a normal bullet, because they were made especially to be that way, with the longer bullet that will fit in that cylinder of that particular firearm, because it has a really long bullet with a more open hollow point design, and it kind of pedals out like a propeller blade instead of like mushrooms,
a hole.
Yeah. It's like a broadhead when it hits. It's soft tissue. It'll stay. It won't open up till if it hits bone or anything hard until it hits soft tissue. Then that's when.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I didn't expect to carry a gun like that for any other reason, just because I liked it and I thought it was cool, to have a really lethal gun like that.
Yeah.
Carrying with me, and it was just came out on the market, and it wasn't like I'm trying to shoot bear or nothing. It was just, well, you want to be as lethal as you can be, and one shot you want to take care of things in self-defense, and that will do it. And it obviously did, even with that,
Yeah.
So that proved beyond a shadow of a doubt, if it can take a 1,000-pound Dogman out, which I think it weighed about the size of a horse,
Jeez.
Because I could see the whole thing in my mirror, and I could tell it was a neurological hit, because how things get stiff and straighten out when they just, that's what it looked like as it was sliding into the weeds and all that on the shoulder there, and just plowing everything over, and all the debris was, it was kicking up, and it came to rest, and I could see the whole body, and it was a werewolf, like you would see on Van Helsing, is a man's torso, sort of a mishmash of man and wolf. The feet,
like a real hybrid.
Yeah, the feet look like, you would expect the werewolf type feet, with the backward hawk looking thing and knee, and the arms and the hands similar to the human, and the chest, and it had a tail. Say that probably I would say the tail was about 5 feet long, probably. A fluffy, long tail. Yeah. I would say, not quite as long as this table, but almost.
Wow.
Yeah. And, yeah, so anyway, what then?
So you shoot it in the face, and you see it fall in the mirror. You see now, is that when you saw all that detail, or was it when it was approaching that you saw all the detail?
I saw the
Or both?
detail. The teeth were very white. I mean, extremely white. That was another thing that I noticed. You know, it wasn't like it had any yellowing or anything like that. It was almost like someone brushed his teeth every day or all the time. Yeah, you know, like it brushed its own teeth. I guess it could if it wanted to with a broom. I don't know. I mean, you have to think about it. Why his teeth were so white, I don't know, but you know, but they were huge, you know, and they were all sharp, you know. They were a little different than a normal canine. It was like it was more jagged. Everything was more jagged.
Interesting.
And the canine teeth were actually longer, and the lowers and uppers were sticking out. You know, both of them. You know, they were both the lowers were almost as long as the uppers, which were, I'd say, 3.5 inches, maybe, probably.
Wow.
At least.
Wow.
You know, and like the thickness of my thumb or thicker. And the tongue was about the size of, like, if you ever seen a cow's tongue. You know, it's about that size. You know, it's huge. It was massive.
Did the head fill the doorway?
Yeah.
The window door?
It filled the whole window.
Wow.
Especially with the mane, you know, it had a bigger mane than you would think, too. Down to the middle of his back, I think it looked like, on the shoulders a little bit, and partially down the back, and then the rest of the hair was short. It was pretty short.
Do you recall hearing anything as far as, like, was it growling? Was it, or just silent, huh?
Never, yeah. I never heard a peep out of it, other than what I thought it was trying to, you know, through some kind of mental.
Right, but it wasn't like you would think, like a predator being going, trying to get you.
It was looking at me like it was just taunting, you know. It was sneering. It was like, you know, it was looking around, and I got you, man, and there's nothing you can do about it. You know.
Wow.
I mean, it was very bizarre. That's why I say it was not an animal, you know. It was, but it wasn't. I do believe there's an ethereal nature to it. You know, we can get into that. I didn't, at the time, I had no idea what I was dealing with. Never even heard of them. And I know they were a cryptid that has been around for centuries. But for some reason, I've never heard of it. I've seen the Bigfoot from way before this, and I never heard of this. But I've seen a Bigfoot. I've seen a couple of them, you know. And so I was like, you know, I'd be ready for that. This I wasn't ready for, you know.
Yeah, I can't imagine if you're not living life hunting these things, you're even expecting them, you know, because I think there's a level of Hollywood that enters the equation where people they think werewolves not real, just something that's in the movies and storybooks.
You know, if someone told me that these things were a cryptid, I'd be like, well, yeah, okay. You know, I mean, I wouldn't dismiss it totally, you know, if someone told me or if I heard of them. I doubt if I'd have a hard time believing somebody if it didn't happen to me, though. You know, I know I would have, you know, even though I knew Bigfoot was out. I'm like, I really, you know, I mean, but
totally get it. But
the thing is what I found out in my research at trying to figure out what happened with my situation there, you can't just dismiss this stuff as like, you know, as it's just people, you know, wanting to, you know, have a good story, you know. You just can't dismiss it, because I found that out for myself, you know. I'm like, yeah, that's a good story, man, you know, about the Dogman, but I would have probably I'd been very skeptical, you know. I know I would have, but I'm not I've never tried to convince anybody. I tried really not to even talk about it. Excuse me.
Till your sister tricked you.
She tricked me, got me on this road to explain it. But I think it's good. It's a good thing that she did, because I think this is actually, we don't pick ministries we have in life. They're placed in front of us, and I believe there's a time and a place, and God says this is your time and place to get your encounter out there, because this will help people.
I think it's going to prepare people for what's coming. Because when I first started hearing about the Dogman stuff, even when I started the show, I wasn't totally sure how I felt about the whole topic of Dogman, which is interesting because, like, for similar reasons, it was like, I don't know, really. But now, my perspective now, I find it way easier to believe that over Bigfoot, because
now it is, from what I've learned. Now I know it's so easy to believe it now, because you have to do research and you have to know by biblical facts, and you have to dig into that, and you'll find it there.
And you look at even the history of these things, and the fact that they're drawn on maps as figures of lands that explorers have visited, and like there's a whole history behind it. And if you don't know that, it seems absurd. But once you start looking into it, and even like the spiritual side of things, the supernatural side of things, and people saying, can't tell me the times I've heard stories of people saying a demon dog showed up in my room. And it's like, all of a sudden, when you start hearing different aspects of these Dogman encounters, you're like, these things may not be totally just this monster in the woods. There might be some metaphysical nature to it. And does that mean that it's a demon dog? And it's just like...
Well, here's for instance of, me being a little skeptical. When I was younger, one of my aunts had died. I went to her funeral, and I was talking to my cousins about this. Now, this would be it was my grandmother, but it'd be her grandmother too, but different sibling there. But she was telling me our grandmother saw a goat man in their yard a couple of times. And I like, I'm thinking, like a crazy cousin here. or she was on medication and she thought she seen a goat man. What is even that? A Baphomet or something? I mean, I don't know. I'm not into cryptids, never was. And it kind of got thrown into it, in different times in my life, but I was never interested or researching it or ever. It wasn't a thing. I got my life to live. I'm not trying to get into, looking into things that nobody believes in anyway, But so, I after this happened to me, I'm like, these things you start to recall stuff that you've been told in life and things. I mean, I do remember that, and I was like, man, maybe she did. And then I started looking into more stuff my family, was handed down by different people in over many, many years and decades of strange things has happened. And my grandfather, had an incident with a Bigfoot when he was trapping as a teenager in Michigan. And, there's just other things, I've seen, actually, I didn't know I saw. I can look, when I was 9 years old, I was up there where my grandma lived that saw the goat man. She had died when I was a baby. I never knew her. But I was 9 years old. I woke up there. I was staying with my aunt for a couple of weeks during the summer because it was just cool to be up there and just the farm and all that. And so I wake up one morning, there was a picture window in this huge farmhouse, and I just kind of was on a day bed in front of that picture window, and I got it. It's like early in the morning, like 6 a.m. There's fog and everything. And I didn't know this, but I saw a Dogman across the street in the granary across, coming out and walking away. I just looked like a huge wolf. It was on all fours. Yeah, I was like, man, it's a massive wolf, you know?
Mhm.
And I was thinking, I got to ask my aunt if she ever seen a wolf around here, especially one like it's crazy big. You know, it was as big as the one I saw, um, looking back on it, that's what it was. You know,
Yeah.
thinking about my past and things I, I didn't ever give it a second thought. I would have never thought of that otherwise. You know, I'm like, you start recalling things.
Mhm.
And I asked her about it, and she didn't say she didn't believe me. She said, "Oh, there's some weird things around here. You might see wildlife you don't see where I live." You know, she didn't dismiss it.
Yeah.
And she would lose her mind if we weren't in by dark. She would lose her mind. And I'm telling you, I'm thinking that's why. She knows those
Yeah.
things.
Is she still
Yeah.
alive?
No, she would be over 100 years old
Oh,
if she
okay.
she died maybe 80,
Gotcha.
around 1985, 83.
So,
So,
so there's clearly a history here. Before this night unfolds for you.
yeah.
Before we move away from the story, though, I feel like we've only touched half of it. Because
Oh, yeah. There's still.
we walked up to the line of I shot it in the face, and then we got distracted. But there's a
Yeah.
whole other part of this story. I mean, because
Oh,
you
yeah.
actually you wanted to see what you shot.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll continue from that point.
Yeah, let's
You
do
know,
it.
it's just I gotta relive it. But yeah, here there is a picnic spot right down from there that people can roadside picnic area.
Mhm.
It's not designed for semis to go in there, of course, but I'm thinking, you know, I need to turn around and make sure I didn't lose my mind. Did that just happen? If that just happened, I got to run that thing over, you know, to make sure it's dead. If it's wounded or whatever, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out in my own head what is happening, and if that just did happen, I'm going to turn around and run that thing over with this semi. It ain't going to make it through that, you know. Yeah, I probably wrecked this semi, but at this point, I'm like, I'm just kind of crazy, you know, right now, you know, trying to figure out what. So I turn around and I do take a few limbs down because it's 13 and a half feet high, you know, but I knew I wasn't going to tear up anything. And I made that turnaround and I get back there and then there is a Jeep there. That thing is not laying there anymore, but you can see where it's been pulled off even further into the wood line, which is probably 15 to 20 feet from the road, the wood line right there, maybe 25, something like that. And just where everything's pushed over and all the weeds are pushed over right at that, where it ended up, you know, laying. And I see these people there in a Jeep and they're outside of the vehicle, a man and a woman. They're dressed like kind of, I don't know, just in normal clothes, nothing out of the ordinary. Khaki style stuff, but nothing that would raise any eyebrows of being officials of any type, you know.
Or
but
the
I
gray
think,
man.
yeah, at the time I didn't know. I thought they were locals or something, and I'm like, man, if they just knew what happened, I could tell it happened because I could see the evidence of it on the ground, and they were right there. And I'm like, what is? And I'm like, I was concerned for them because if that thing must be wounded or something, and I mean, that thing is I pulled over on the other side on the shoulder enough to get off the road enough, put my hazards on. I'm like, hey, you need some help? Because, you know, I'm thinking in my head, you shouldn't be here. What is you even doing here? And they said, well, they kind of were looking at me like, what are you stopping for? And why, what are you asking us? You know, we're good, you know, and then we're like kind of real dismissive about it. I said, did you see anything happen here? And looks like something happened or something. And We just saw a couple of bears here wrestling around, and we were just checking it out, or some kind of vague thing like that. And I could see too that they had a shotgun propped up in the back seat, kind of from where my vantage point is. I could look right in there. They were really dark tinted windows, and it looked like they had equipment in there, but they kind of had the window down enough on both sides where you could see the light shining in there, and I could see that barrel, and I knew what I was looking at anyway enough. So there was a lot of things that made me question what that was about. I said, well, okay, if you're good, I'm out of here, because I'm like all kinds of going crazy right now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where is it at? There's just a million things going on in my head. And why are they it's just hard to even explain how fast my mind's going, and what I'm thinking. And my whole ride back, I'm going the opposite way. So I take a different way. I'm like, I'm not turning around no more. I get to the lake highway near Lake Michigan, and I just take that back. And so I don't even remember anything, hardly much, for a good day or two. I mean, I do. I mean, I worked the next day. I put in a incident report, and I looked at my truck. There was no blood on it or anything, but it scratched the door and messed up a few things. Little,
That's what I was going to ask. Like, so this is a company truck, right?
Yeah.
So you had to report the damage and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, when we did this quite a bit, where we take it to where we would fix things. And I come in later. I was usually one of the later drivers that come in. And I had written that up and went home. And the next day I come in, and my truck is in the shop already, because, well, so-and-so had to get his truck, so he took yours in. And because I didn't even have a chance to really even, like, I think I would have taken a picture of it. I would have, because I'm like, I should get a picture of that. It was just for myself, nothing else. And so I'm like, well, now I can't get a picture of it, even of that door. So, I mean, there was just, I don't know, a lot of things that I was going through my head. I was like, I'm going to try to go over there and see if they fixed it yet or not. And I couldn't get over there in time. By the time I did, I was like, well, where's the door at? I mean, I think what they did is because instead of just fixing it normal, they just had another truck with the same truck, and that they had parts trucks.
Yeah.
And they just put there was a wrecked one. There's a few wrecked ones and that door was fine. And then put the decal on it, and the DOT numbers and stuff. And I was going to go the next day. I had my truck back the next day. They just, how do you fix it so fast? I was going to try to go over there. And then I'm like, and then I call them. I'm like, do you still have that door? And they're like, no, that went in, in the metal scrap, and this metal scrap took off, in the bin, the big metal scrap. I called them because I wanted to at least try to get some just for my own, just for me,
Yeah.
And I could never get that, because that was, physical proof to that. I'm not nuts. Look at this door,
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about that when I shut down for the night,
No, I wouldn't either. I honestly, by the time you get back at the end of the night, I mean, you said this happened probably around 7:30, so you're looking at sundown's starting to come now.
Yeah. Well, actually, at that time, about 9:30 was getting dark. Yeah, I had a few hours of daylight when that happened.
Yeah.
But by the time I got back to where I was dark when I got back.
Yeah, and I'm not looking to wander around my truck in the dark that night.
It was about 9:30 when I got back.
Yeah.
9:30 or 10. So it was dark, I know, when I got back for sure. And
Was your terminal a type of terminal that had people working there 24/7, like guys working the dock at night?
No.
So it was dark there and it was alone.
Yeah.
Because you're one of the last guys in, you're one of the last guys out.
Yeah. I usually was one of the last guys out in the morning and last coming in the evening.
So you're in the yard alone, dark.
Yeah.
And you just had a monster.
We had,
No thanks.
Yeah.
That'd be terrifying.
Yeah. So, after that, it was really, there's really not much more to it. I mean, other than later on, there's some things that happen, but
later on ties everything else together kind of. Doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
but I mean, as far as that incident goes, it's,
right. Yeah. I mean, that's obviously like a very dramatic experience. And, I know there's a lot of psychological aspects that kind of pushed you around a little bit too. I mean, it really messed with you for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And we can definitely go there, but to kind of bring the story full circle, I guess I'll pose this question and you can kind of take it from there. How long of a period of time was it from the time that this night happened to when you were visited and told you done messed up?
It was, I talked to Lance Hightower about it in December. He put it out in January that following year, I think. And it was like, it's that same month.
So we're talking about 7 months?
Probably.
From the time of the incident?
Yeah, because when that went out, they knew who their man was.
How did they track you though? You were anonymous with Lance. That's the crazy thing. I mean, like I know the NSA has like these data storage buildings and all.
They knew someone killed their thing, right? Killed it.
Yeah.
Well, everything that I said on his podcast that he narrated matched up. So they knew. They just knew.
Yeah. It's disconcerting. Is that the right word? It's concerning. Yeah. It's concerning, actually, not disconcerting. It's concerning.
Yeah.
To know that they can kind of track you like that. And that was in 2017, which, by the way, this show was about 6 months old at that point.
Yeah.
So we were early days then. In fact, that was probably right around the time that I came out with the episode I Killed Bigfoot. So,
really?
Because I think I Killed Bigfoot was around episode 30 something. So that'd be about almost halfway, a little more than halfway through the first year.
Okay.
Anyways, talk to me about how that whole scene unfolded though, because you're dealing with your own psychological mess from this, but then it kind of gets enhanced with your visit.
Yeah. Well, I'm in a brand. The thing is too, I just got a brand new truck at this time. Every year they would put me in a new one.
Senior driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I get it, and this truck was like 2 days old, and had like 200 miles on it, and I get pulled in the weigh station for, I think, is an inspection. I'm like, what? They can't really. You
can tell it's brand new.
Truck.
You can tell it's brand new. Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, whatever. This will be easy. It's new. There's nothing going to be wrong, right?
Yeah.
And but they said I start to go in with paperwork. You know how you do. Mm-hmm. You think, if they don't, they direct you. If it's going to be a level 1 or whatever level it is, and I'm like, well, it's probably a level 2 or 3 or something. I start to walk in and park behind the chicken coop, we call it. But they come out to me. One of the guys said, no, we're not doing an inspection. We were just instructed to hold you here by, federal authorities. I'm like, what?
Your stomach dropped, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It just dropped. What? Did I get framed for something? What, you know what I mean? I mean, is there something in my trailer that I don't know about? Or I can't imagine that. But so I'm sitting there. They finally get there, and I'm like freaking. I got my guns and everything in there. I got a rifle and a pistol.
What was the company policy on that whole thing?
No weapons.
Yeah.
But, whatever.
Yeah.
It's my life, not theirs.
So in this moment, though, are you thinking, because you're legally allowed to carry.
I'm legally, federally, by DOT federal regulations, I'm allowed, but company policy.
Right. So are you more concerned about losing your job more than what they're going to have an issue with?
Yeah, no. I carried for years and they never knew it.
Gotcha.
They never knew it. Years. I'm not,
you're
flashing it or just telling anybody. It's for my own personal protection, which obviously I'm pretty damn glad,
Yeah, justified.
Yeah. But so they get there and they come at me, right out the gate when they get there in an SUV suburban thing, which you typically would see, I guess, and there's two guys and they say, we have some information that we need to talk about, and that we're here to tell you that you've stepped over, I think it was like you stepped over the line when you did this and you started talking about it, and we are making sure you're not going to talk about it. So this is what's going to happen, and this is how it's going to go, or we can make your life, very miserable. And they were pretty nasty about it too. It wasn't like, a gentle conversation, they were pretty aggressive, and they took my phone.
Did they tell you what you did though?
Yeah.
Did they
I said, well, yeah, here then so much was going on. I'm just trying to remember. I can't remember verbatim, but it was just coming at me like pit bulls,
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, what did I do? I mean, what is this about? And they said, well, you know what you did. I said, no, I don't. I said, well, you killed our asset. And I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't kill it. And then I'm like, bing,
Light bulb,
oh, that's their asset. Like another stone drops in my gut, I mean, it's like, wow, this is, so what are they going to do to me? I'm powerless against this. They take my phone. Like, we need your phone. We're searching your truck. Get out. And I hid my pistol behind the CB, I pulled it out, put it back in, hid my pistol up there. Cause I did this ahead of time because I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm hiding that. Yeah. But I had a rifle. I couldn't hide. It was in my top sleeper bunk up there. And I just had that just to have it, back up.
Considering all things.
Yeah. Considering those things are out there, and stuff. I needed, I guess I got God, but we also need to do our part, right?
God gave us guns.
Yeah. I don't have a spirit of fear. It's not that, it's just, thinking what I should be doing. That's all, I wasn't ever fearful. I was afraid at the time, but I became a lot less fearful the more I talked about it and researched it, and realized that, it's nothing to be afraid of, really. Not in the regards of knowing what I found out, it is, but it's still not, because of, I think the nature of these things are of a spiritual nature at the very core of it. And they do become, in physical nature, but they're not always that. And they're not, and some of them might be, but I think a lot of them are not. So anyway, they took my rifle. They found that. They took it. And so I've had them. They gave me a lot of instructions about not talking about it anymore, and the things they can do. We can, you can drop dirty on a drug test and you lose your CDL and this and that. And, there's things we can do, whatever. So just stay quiet. Well, it worked. Their intimidation worked. And I didn't say anything for like 4 years, to anybody, nobody. It was like, there's no point, I don't need to have my life miserable. They did a few things to show they could do it. They shut my bank account down for a minute. And
did they really?
Yeah. Yeah. But I got it,
That day?
No, it was right a day or two later, right after that. And then I asked the bank what was that about, and they said, well, was anything federal going on? They were like, yeah, something like that. They gave me some vague thing, but we got it turned back on for you. So I don't know. They were real vague about it, but it was something. They said, yeah, I think it was something to do with federal. But they didn't give me any information at the bank, but I knew that was them, They said, you'll know it's us. You might not, we're not, they just said all kinds of things that I guess that unless they told you ahead of time, you might not figure out, but they said, you have your warning. So when things go sideways, you'll know what that's about. So anyway, that was, and then I didn't say anything till 4 years later, in about the time I met you, at that conference.
And so you keep your mouth shut. You come down to the conference. What was the motivation to start talking at that point? Were you even planning on talking about that point, or you were just planning on just relating? Because I remember, let me just say this. I do remember sitting at a table with you and you're telling me this story, but you also were like, you didn't say it like exactly like this, but I could tell you didn't want to talk about it like officially, but you were telling, and I was just like, I was kind of confused in the moment. I was like,
I was confused. I was
like, does he know who I am?
Do I really want to do this? I was confused too. Should I really, do I really want to talk about it?
Because I wasn't sure if you understood what I did. Because I was thinking to myself,
I knew what
you're telling me this story and this is what I do. I document this stuff. And I was confused.
I was a little bit coerced, It wasn't like, hey dude, look, I got this story you should hear.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I was a little bit coerced because then I opened up.
Yeah.
After that and realized,
the secret is what gives them the power over you.
Right. And and things started clicking in that regard for me. I'm like, I'm not doing this no more. And I felt like, God put Jenny kind of like put her in that position to, hey, this is your segue into opening up this for my glory, and whatever that is. So, and to let people know that if you're going to be any kind of an open-minded person, this may help you, very well may help you in certain situations that you should at least be aware of, And when I realized that, I'm like, I'm done with that and being quiet about it. And I felt better too. I did feel better. And I felt like I was doing what God put in front of me to do. And it was a relief.
I got to tell you, when I first met you and in hearing you tell this, it kind of makes things fall in line more mentally for me to make that make sense. Because I remember after that day, I felt like I scared you away. That's how I felt, because I was like, you're telling me something like as a podcaster alone, just as the podcast of document stories, I was like, this is the golden goose.
I wasn't. I know I wasn't telling you.
But then you were just like so standoffish for me. Then I was like, oh, I freaking scared this guy away.
I wasn't telling you as a podcaster. I was telling you as a person.
Yeah,
I knew who you were though. I've listened to your podcast before that conference. I knew exactly who you were. Jenny didn't know who you were. Well, I mean,
Jenny's off camera here arguing.
She did, but not as well as I did. I know she did, but I knew you better than she did. I know I did. I listened to him since he was in Tennessee.
We'll call this segment Merkel Wars.
He was in Pennsylvania. He was
OG fan. Which one's the OG fan?
I was a fan. I wasn't telling you because of that. I wasn't expecting to tell anybody. I meet Jenny, and she's, encouraging me that I need to talk to people about it. And so I was, okay, I know you're a podcaster, but I'm not trying to talk to you as a podcaster.
More like, I know this guy's heard stuff and he'll believe, and give me his give me his time, his ear. Yeah,
that's it. And then I did agree to come on your show though.
Yeah,
in that conference, I think I did agree at some point. I intend on coming on your show, and it took 3 years. But
well, I mean, to be fair, you did stop here like 2 years ago, and we spent the day together. We just didn't record. So.
I wasn't apprehensive then, but something had just happened that kind of freaked me and Jenny out.
What happened?
Remember the gun?
Mm-hmm.
It showed up.
Yep.
Out of nowhere.
I do remember that. Because at the time of the conference, you still didn't have that gun back. So the gun that they took from you, you didn't have. That was just gone.
Right. So what happened just before we visited a couple of years ago, was it a week or two before we were here? That gun showed up in the back of my truck. And she just, did you discover it?
Ready to head north, and
why don't you scoot over the microphone over here?
Yeah, I did.
We were getting ready to head up north. We had been shooting like the Thursday prior, and we hadn't been to the back of the truck since then. So it'd been like almost a week or so. And so we went to go throw our bags in the back of the truck, and there's this huge box, almost like for a mirror or a large picture frame or something like that. And Joe right away goes, "This isn't mine." And he like recoils back. And I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "This ain't mine." And I said, "Well, see what it is." And he pulls it out. He takes his knife, cuts it open, and I can just see in his face like the color drain. And then he puts his hand in, he recoils his hand back, and then he pulls, I see a butt of a gun coming out. And I said, "Is that a gun? Is that the gun?" And like I said, I could just see in his face, yes. And he nods, yes. And I started saying a lot of expletives. I mean, we were just freaked out because the back of his truck was locked. And the other thing is what do you call those toppers? I always forget. The
tonneau cover.
Yeah, tonneau cover. And the way his fit, you had to run your finger under this lip for it to close right and lock. And that was all closed up right and locked. So somewhere in that week, we'd been driving around with that gun unknowingly in the back of that truck. And they just came in and, it's just a very creepy feeling to know that they've been on your property, in your vehicle. You didn't see him, you didn't hear him, and you just didn't know a thing. And my first thought was, what did they do with that gun?
We believe it was a message. That's what I think.
Is there DNA? Is there someone's DNA on it tied to a crime or something? So this is where my mind is going. And I said, let's get a boat and take it out to the middle of Lake Michigan and dump it, which is not what happened. But I said, you got to deal with this because they could very easily tie you to some crime. This is just another card, it's like another move on the chessboard with these guys. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's what happened before we came down here. And I think that kind of
freaked us out.
Yeah.
We were kind of skittish. But yeah, that's so I had it dealt with. I still got it. And it's actually, it's another one. It's one of her favorites to go out and shoot now.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah.
And
the history, right?
Yeah.
It's just a sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2014, chambered in 13.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fine. They can't tie me to nothing if that's the case. So
yeah,
I'm not worried about it.
I do feel like there's like I said, there's the sense that they only had the power over you when you were willing to play the game of being quiet.
Yeah, I started to talk.
Once you started talking,
they're like, "Okay, shut up." Well, here's because I was talking about it. I'm like, they got my gun and they won't give it back, and it's been years. And because I asked them, I said, "How am I going to get my gun back?" Well, we'll let you know, and don't worry about it, and whatever. And okay, well, I know I'm never going to get it back, and so I was starting to, complain about it. And when I'm talking to people about my story, about I mean, and then I get it back, and they're like, "Okay, no, you can shut up. You got your gun back." Okay,
So it tells you that they're listening.
Mm-hmm.
They're keeping tabs.
Oh,
yeah.
It's a message, but anyway, they've been leaving me alone. I mean, there has been a little bit of assistance on my end to help me deal with that. I know certain people that I've told Jenny about, but they've helped me out, and I haven't had any trouble since.
All right, I got to ask you: Are you willing to say what, who, how
No.
the certain people?
I
got you.
Get them; they're still active.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
it's good to know some people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got you. So, we've talked about this experience, and there's a lot of different aspects of it that we should probably revisit as far as maybe dissecting a little bit. Let's start. I want to make sure we hit the idea of the metaphysical aspect, but let's start with where we just kind of came off of killing the asset. Obviously, they're not going to lay out their whole operation to you, but like, what are your conclusions?
Well, when they said you killed our asset, at that point, I said, well, if you keep your dog on a leash, I was getting upset now.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting real facetious about it myself. I'm like, okay, you guys, I'm done taking, I'm done taking your guff here.
Yeah.
I'm just not, I'm going to protect myself and start standing up you're not going to intimidate me. And you keep your dog on a leash and you would still have it. Why? And you're mad that I saved my life, and killed whatever this thing is that's yours, and you're mad that that's dead and I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, what is that?
Right.
You guys are evil, you guys are evil. That's all, I told them that. Well, that's what we do. So, and I asked them where they, what, and they did tell me, they flashed something at me where they're from, what they're doing, and for who, and they said it's just a matter of Homeland Security. So it was Homeland Security.
What do you think that they're using it for?
Well, a lot of things, really. I think they've been using them a long time. From what I've discovered in my research, and from a lot of, several people that are definitely good sources, trusting sources that I can say that it looks like they've been using these things and that they are of a foundationally of a Nephilim nature. Yeah, you've heard of, of course, about the deep underground military bases.
Tell me.
I know you know all about that. So that's they're part of all that system, and others too. And there are demonic entities that we know that our military is coercing with and getting deals and technology and things, for serving them that side of things,
Yeah.
And these things are sourced from that. And I do believe of course, there's a DNA hybrid thing going on with it, but it comes from the Genesis 6 originally. All this stuff, I believe that with Bigfoot too.
So do you think that they're basically Genesis 6ing today through scientific means? Is that what you're suggesting then? That they're basically creating human hybrids of creatures?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that would be obtained knowledge from fallen angels?
Yes.
Gotcha.
That's exactly what I'm pretty sure. From everything I can gather at this point, it all points to it.
Do you feel then that, because I feel like that about UFOs as well.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm on the line of saying I know because of the people I talk to. So like,
I'm pretty much there on that exactly.
Do you feel like the topic of cryptids, Dogman, Bigfoot, this side of things, and the UFO, do you think that they're basically the same topic, and we just have a hard time seeing everything for what it is?
We compartmentalize it.
Yeah.
And it's all one ball of wax. It really is.
Yeah.
If you really study this stuff, every bit of it, it all fits like a puzzle to that Nephilim agenda stuff, Yeah. It takes a little while to get there. I mean, it took me a minute, but it's where it leads you if you want to follow the truth and be, if you're not, if you don't have cognitive dissonance that's controlling you, and you see things in the world for what it really is. And I know a lot of what it is doesn't seem to be true because it's of a spiritual nature and it's hidden very well, but the devil hides in plain sight.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's where I'm at on it. It really is it's demonic to the core. Everything, there's God in everything else. That's just the way the world is,
So you can literally say you're a demon slayer.
Well, I never thought about it in that regard, but I imagine I am,
Yeah. So when that night happened and it did the telepathy where it spoke to you and said, I got you now, or whatever it was, because what you were told as this is our asset and it's out there and it seemed like it was hunting you, does that mean that they released it to hunt somebody that night?
Well, it's speculation. There's a lot.
Sure.
Me and Jenny have speculated on it, and a lot of other people have, but the consensus pretty much is it was on a hunt, and it was probably a test for that creature. Or I believe there was other ones there too. That's what happened. Is there was other ones I didn't see that might have been one on my driver's side. I don't know. There probably was. There wasn't anybody on the road at that time but me and that thing, for it was a good several minutes. So I do believe that that's what dragged that thing into the woods.
Another Dogman.
Another one or two, whatever, however many there was. And those people were the handlers that I saw. Those, you know, they come to all these conclusions later, but those were handlers. And that there was a female there. She had a device in her hand that looked like it. I thought it might have been a cell phone or some. At the time, you know, you don't know at the time, but after the fact, I think that was some kind of device to control these things. They have a chip in them, or they have something going on.
And it's been a long time since I've heard this, but years ago, before I started the podcast, I was listening to all these different podcasts and stuff about Bigfoot and cryptids. And a friend of mine, Justin Fall, had a show called, I think it was called The Fourth Watch. And he had our friend Wes Germer on the show. And Wes was telling stories in that show.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure it was there that I heard Wes talk about stories that he heard of government releasing these things out at night and having some kind of tech in it where it's like, kind of like in my mind, the flip of a button or a flip of a switch, it like calls them back in, and it's like they know when to go back. And so that's kind of almost what you're describing.
Well, there was someone we went to the next Dogman conference me and Jenny did after that following year. And I don't know if it was that one or if it was maybe a comment. Jenny remembers, but it was a comment that someone that lives in that area said they saw cages in the middle of nowhere up there, just dropped in a field in the middle of the woods in that area when he was hunting or he was scouting for, deer or whatever he was doing. And he couldn't explain that, and
they say how big the cages were.
They were huge and they were massive and they were thick, and you don't get those. There was no way to get them there. They had to be airlifted like by helicopter or some other UFO thing or, or whatever they do. But there's no way. And so I think that's probably one of the tidbits of information we got that from a guy that lives there and said, and I think there was other comments from people in that area that it's mostly a place where you have like cabins that are seasonal area, but there's locals that are spotty that live in those woods too. Yeah, cabins and houses, and they said, oh yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff happening like that up here. You'll see some real crazy, and that metallic sound I heard, and what was all that perception thing? What was that? A portal?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Like
I don't know. There's some things I still have a lot of questions about that within my situation with the whole thing, but I think I have some kind of a handle on what some of it probably is, though. Like, was I close to a portal, or probably, or within a time shift of something that they do to get these things out in our reality, possibly. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't, but I think I have some kind of idea, even though I don't know the science behind it.
Really. Oh yeah, nobody. I mean, certainly none of us do.
But I know that kind of science. I'm 99% sure we're using it.
Yeah, of course. And I think the verbiage you just used was like close to a portal is probably even the wrong verbiage, because the more I've thought about these things, I don't know if portals are fixed anchored locations. I think that they are mobile, and if there's a technology being used to open them, there's certainly, I'm sure of it, there's got to be an ability to choose where they open. So what you experienced, if there was something opening up right there where these things came out of, I mean, excuse me, it would explain a lot for the warping, the muffled, the almost like you were on the edge of something that was kind of metaphysical opening up and your physical body was reacting to it, you know?
Even everything, all my perceptions were altered. I didn't feel like I'm not altered in a way that, like a drunken state or anything, or a dizzy or anything like that. Just the colors were off. Sound was off. Mm-hmm. Everything was just a little bit off. Mm-hmm. My truck was still running. It sounded different. It was just hard to, it's hard to explain what that experience was like.
People who experienced, so we just came out with a documentary called The Meadow Project, and the story there, well, there's a lot of stories, but the story that got us there was they documented a case where they were there researching the meadow, and a cubed portal opened up on the meadow, and you couldn't see it with your naked eye, but you could see it on thermal. And they directed two or three men to the location where this was at. So you have a two-man team seeing this on the thermals. I think it was two different thermals they actually saw it on. One, you could see it better than the other. They're directing another team over to it, and you see on video now where the video kicks in, the recording, the portal itself was fading, but they knew exactly where to take these guys. And you see on video the guys, once they cross the threshold of where that cube was, they disappear. And those guys, they said that when they entered into that portal of whatever it was, the environment around them changed. Like they could tell they were entering into something. And so with you weren't physically moving, but something was moving into your area. And it sounds like you were experiencing that shift of reality, which was like, you're here, but there's something else coming and overlapping this reality now.
Yeah. Well, when that kind of makes sense, because, when I started moving and I turned back around again, that kind of like dissipated, like totally, so, but then that Dogman's there now.
Yeah. Dinner time.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of speculation, but I think we're close to what happened there. I believe.
I agree. I mean, of course, there has to be speculation on things that we're discussing that are outside the realms of what happened to you that night. Mm-hmm. But I mean, like, for instance, you take the guy who said that he saw the cages, and you suggested airdropping. You even brought up UFO. That literally could be something where portaled in. I know it sounds sci-fi, but I mean, we're talking about very advanced technology. We're talking about, we're in an age right now where our government is saying, yes, UFOs are real. We have congressmen and congresswomen who are saying, yes, not only are they real, but we have access to information to make us believe that they're interdimensional. Well, if UFOs and our government is telling us that they are interdimensional, there's no doubt in my mind they've been reverse engineering it. There's no doubt in my mind they've been dabbling with it. They have the ability to make things pop in and out of existence.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard from credible sources that the people that have been in these things, a few credible sources at least, that inside of these craft, if it's a recovered craft, if they're on that kind of a mission, there's Enochian language in those.
Yep.
That'll tell you everything you need to know pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, we that was one of the most documented stories on the show for us, was when we had Charlie on, and he was retrieving data off a downed aircraft. It was a long mission. And actually, I'm writing about it, that whole story, but so I've been revisiting it, and the details and the details. It's funny, after years, I came out with that in 2019, and so it's been 6 years, and you forget some of the details until you go back to, you're like, wow, and then like the light bulbs and all the things start connecting to what you already know now from 6 years of experience of talking to people. Yeah. And all of a sudden the story has new layers to it. But he talked about seeing Enochian language, and he didn't know what that was, but a scientist told him, this is Enochian language. And he said, what's that? And the scientist like, it's a demon language. We need to get out of here.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
And the way he described that story, it seemed like it was tech that our government didn't want other governments to get their hands on, which makes you feel like it was ours, or at least it was tech that was brought here that they knew who brought it, and they just didn't want anybody else to touch it except for them, which tells you they're reverse engineering, they're gathering data, and they're building these things in black sites.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's through demonic means, I mean, again, it circles right back to Enochian, Book of Enoch.
Yeah.
And nefarious, dark, evil sources.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what you saw that night was pretty dark and evil.
Yeah. I believe it was, a demon, basically, at its core. It looked like it. If you were looking at it like I was.
Yeah.
Wasn't an animal, I'll tell you that.
No, I mean, I'm looking at it now.
Yeah.
Behind
and that's
you.
a pretty good representation. That's a little small.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. That's what I thought too.
But that's really a good representation right there. It really is. It's
when I was making it, I tried making it bigger, and it just wasn't. It wasn't happening. It's like that's impossible.
It gives you the idea of exactly what my vantage point was. It really does give you that. I looked at it when I walked in, and I was put me right back there. Like,
you paused physically. You paused. That's what like literally when I saw your body language, I was like, oh shoot, I didn't even think about that. Like I didn't think about putting that image up on a TV, especially not even warning you.
Yeah.
You just walked in on it and saw that, and I could tell it took you back.
Yeah, yeah.
Has anybody ever done an artistic rendition of that night for you?
Yeah. It was Sibylla.
Sibylla. Yeah, she's a good lady.
We never got back to really, I don't know what happened, but she did get close to getting the AI. I don't know how she does it, but we collaborated through emails, and I'd say, do this, do that. She was getting closer, but somehow we didn't finish it yet. And I don't know why. We just didn't, but maybe we can still. I know she's still out there.
Oh, yeah,
I just never got back to her, and maybe she got busy, and I guess, but she was close. At the end, the last one she did was, I'd say she was 95% there,
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know she had talked to you recently, but
yeah, Sibylla did an artistic rendition of my friend Dave Groves in Pennsylvania, his Bigfoot sighting. For years, it was one of the more detailed encounters that I had personally ever heard. He wasn't a believer. He didn't even think about Bigfoot until he was four-wheeling one day, and I think in the Allegheny National Forest, and this thing was standing there off the trail, and he could see from the knees up. And it's a pretty detailed story as far as what he saw, and Sibylla was able to do an artistic rendition. So, and he like, for the longest time, it was on his Facebook page as like a profile picture or something. Like he was like, this is exactly. So,
yeah,
that's cool. So you have this whole thing happen, but it wasn't the introductory to the topic per se. It wasn't until, like you said, you were looking back at your life and you saw what you saw out the window when you were 9 years old. What you saw that night, though, it never stood up on its hind legs, right? It was just on four legs, this giant wolf.
It was on four legs. I would say it looked, you know what a Shetland pony size is?
No.
It looked about that size.
Okay.
It's a small horse size. That's a very small horse, like maybe a massive dog, like a Great Dane, maybe size.
Okay.
But it was a wolf. I couldn't see anything but the rear of it. It was walking away, but it did come out around the granary, and it was probably 100 yards away across the street from where I saw it. But it was foggy, and it kind of like walked off, and it was walked into the fog.
Mm.
It disappeared, and there was 90 acres of raspberries there. Where that was at. Where it used to be anyway. I don't think there was raspberries at the time, but
yeah,
my grandfather grew raspberries, and that's all he did. And he had like 90 acres of them, usually.
So I wanted to talk about some other things that you've experienced in life. And this was obviously one of them. But you brought up earlier that you had experience with Bigfoot, and I know of two situations, one in the military, and I don't know if there's a handful in Louisiana, but I know something happened in Louisiana too, right?
Yeah.
Which one happened first, though?
Louisiana.
Yeah?
Yeah. I was in the Army at the time. This would have been, I think it would have been like, had to be 19. And we were off duty. It was a weekend, I guess. And there was 5 of us all together. Me and my buddies. We're out in the woods. We're just blowing off steam, getting away from the stuff on post and on duty things. And we just thought we'd go out in the woods and just explore, And this is close to Fort Polk. It's in Louisiana.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let you go ahead.
I was stationed at Fort Polk.
Interesting. Okay. I'm interested.
At that time. Yeah.
Oh, my gears are turning.
Why? Is there a lot? I haven't researched a lot about.
I have an episode called the Fort Polk Dogman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I missed that one, I guess.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, and being young guys and whatever, we're climbing. They have these skinny pine trees there all over the place, and they're growing like weeds, but they're real thin and tall. A lot of them. And they're saplings, but they're really tall. They go up 30, 40 feet. Well, we were climbing up them, and they'll bend over, and they'll let you go. You get close to the ground, you let them go, and they snap up. Mm-hmm. And it's just silly stuff we're doing, right?
Yeah.
All 5 of us are doing this. Well, we do that for a while, and this Bigfoot comes out. And as we're walking deeper in the woods, and just stands there, wiggling his fingers, looking at us. He's like about 8.5 feet tall. And he's just rocking like this, and he's not making any noise and nothing aggressive, but he's like done with our crap, I guess, is what it seemed like. We started talking about it afterwards, and it was like he was like an old man telling the kids to get off the lawn.
Yeah.
Where I'm done with you, just get out of here. That's kind of what the vibe we got, because he wasn't coming after us. He was. And we looked at each other, and we're standing there. What do we do? And we just started backing up. We didn't have any weapons or nothing, anything on us. We're just out there doing that stuff. And we just started backing up. And as we started backing up, we got around in a path we were coming down. I think it could have been a game trail, but there was a lot of open area you could go through just about any way. It was just a lot of pine trees, And we get out of sight of him. He never chased us. He never did anything. And we turned around, we took off, and I was driving, and I had a big Buick at the time, and we, piled in, all 5 of us easy in that. It was 68 Buick is what it was at the time I had. But, we got out of there, and we talked about, we'd never said anything to anybody, officially, but among ourselves. We talk about it, but one of the guys was from Michigan too. He was actually from Battle Creek, one of the guys, I lost track of him, that was so long ago, but yeah, all those guys I knew very well. We trained together for a long time, and we just agreed never to say anything about it, because they don't look too fondly on that kind of thing for promotions or anything. Because they'll put things like that in your file,
Yeah. Crazy.
And then, you got an officer saying, well, who's up for promotion or this or that? And, you saw a Bigfoot. Well, let's pick this guy. And, little things can really.
What was this on the training area or was this off base?
It was close to it. It wasn't on base, but I would say we were within 10 miles of the perimeter.
Of where you guys train?
5 to 10 miles.
Because this is a big base.
Yeah, it's huge. It's many, many miles. We trained on it all the time. Right. We'd drive around like, how big is this place, man? We've been driving forever, and it seemed like we're still on base. We're still on it. Yeah, an hour. Like we're still on it. It's big. It's really big. Yeah, and we, fire artillery and tank ranges out there and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, at the time, I was in an artillery regiment at the time, but, yeah.
What was your extent of awareness, I'd say, of Bigfoot? I don't want to say knowledge like you were a researcher or anything, but like, did you even think that, did you ever see anything about a Bigfoot? Did you guys know it was Bigfoot? Because like, I know some people who encountered these things for the first time, they're like, I don't know what that was. It was a monster.
Well, we were all freaked out, of course, but we knew it was a Bigfoot. There was no, they say it does have some ape type features, but it looked like a human, just an ancient, prehistoric. If the skulls that they find of prehistoric people or that look a little different than us, but just a lot bigger. He looked like a human. He didn't look like an ape. He had a nose like us. It was just flatter and real broad, like really. His eyes were not human looking though. His eyes were dark and like almost the eyes. The thing is, you couldn't really see the eyes because they were dark. You could see like the holes there, like the orbits maybe, but in the brow ridge and just darkness there. No whites or. Didn't see any of that, or the teeth looked like maybe chiclets, like big square teeth. He wasn't really showing his teeth, but what teeth? He was only 25 yards, 30 yards away. Man, that's pretty close. And he was brown. Kind of brindle, but yeah, that's pretty much it on that. On that is that they looked like chiclets, and he looked human. His teeth were really weird, but human-like. I just remember that sticking out in my mind. The teeth. Eyes you really couldn't see, and he wasn't vocalizing or moving towards us or anything. He was just like, you're not going any further. We don't know if he was, I got a family back here and you're not coming this way, but he came right out totally in full view of us from out of behind some scrubby brush over to our right, and just stood there, just squared up like this, and then rocking, and his fingers are doing this, and
it went rocking and you went rolling.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, I got dad jokes for days.
Yeah, me too.
I'm trying to think back to the episode I did with this one guy. I remember he was from South America. He has a very strong accent, but he served in our military, and he was stationed at Fort Polk, and he was doing a training exercise. And I think his partner or the officer he was with had to go back to the barracks or something for something. Like, he was left out there alone. And when he was out there alone, he had this encounter. And what I don't remember all the details of that experience that he shared. It's been probably 300 episodes ago. But I remember him describing something that happened that I think people were saying, why didn't you ask him about? And it's because it didn't cross my mind. He described an environment that would allude to this thing popping in through a portal. And so we have that story, but we also have a story that we documented on the show. And it's a members episode from years ago. I had a guy on who was stationed at Fort Campbell, and he talked about Dogman on the back 40 on Fort Campbell. And that was actually the back 40 isn't far from where I met you at that conference. And he said that it was not uncommon for the term Dogman to be called out over the radio on the property.
Wow.
And so what was interesting about that story that the audience didn't get to experience was the lead up to it, which was I was in a group chat with 2 other guys plus him, so 3 guys total, that were all part of this one night when this incident happened, and they all were willing at the time to come in here to the studio because the back 40 is probably about a 3-hour drive from here. Like, they were going to come in here and tell what happened. And they got cold feet. And then one guy finally came on remotely with me after he moved from the Fort Campbell to somewhere in Georgia. What's Bennington? Is Bennington in Georgia? Benning. Yeah.
Fort Benning.
Fort
I think
Benning.
it's changed now. Even from, I think the name is even different than Fort Benning.
Okay.
I think they've changed it.
I'm pretty sure he was in Georgia, but he even said that the class he was teaching while he was in Georgia, when they would have new guys coming in from Campbell, he would bring it up, and they were all in agreement and say, "Yep, that's a thing there." But that for them, he had an experience that was less dramatic, but he had eyes on it, called it over the radio. But one night they were training, and he heard this whole thing unfold over the radio. And the one guy that was in the group chat, it happened to him, but he wouldn't come on and talk about it. Essentially, they were in a unit, and a Dogman came in and actually grabbed one of the soldiers and pulled him into the brush. And this guy, Mac, who I was talking to, actually physically pulled this guy back. And so, like, this whole aura around cryptids, Dogman, Bigfoot, around the military bases, do you feel like there's a connection to that encounter you had to the military base at all? Because I know with what you experienced later with the military might...
I wouldn't doubt it, but I couldn't say.
Did it cross your mind at all back then?
No.
Okay.
Not back then. Now I'm like, I would think, yeah, it's possible, probably possible, but I couldn't really tell you if it was connected at all. I do know, when did this happen? This, you know, what year?
The Fort Campbell?
Well, it was this Fort Campbell you're talking about.
Well, Fort Polk is the guy that was from South America. Fort Campbell is the one where the guy got pulled in by the Dogman.
Okay.
Which one are you talking about? The portal Dogman or the pulled in by a Dogman?
The pulled in by Dogman.
That's Fort Campbell.
Okay.
And that had to be within the last 3 years, I would say, because 3 to 5 years, because it was right around the time I moved here is when I started talking to those guys.
Wow. You know, I don't know. There was some weird things that happened at Fort Polk, though, that I didn't pay a lot of attention to, but I knew there was a few weird training accidents that I heard about. That makes me wonder, you know, about these things being on that installation.
Yeah.
I couldn't say because I just heard about them in second, third hand and stuff. But there was some weird training accidents that, wow, it's like, how does that happen? Somebody's cut in half.
Ooh,
like how? But like I said, this is second, third hand, and I just heard about them, or maybe it was ripped in half and not cut in half.
Yeah. That's
and
terrible.
There's been other things that looking back to that there'll be, I knew an MP when I was there, was a friend of mine, and I was an MP, but would say there was some crazy, like, wildlife that they deal with, and didn't go into detail, but what was it? Is that what they're talking? What he meant, or but couldn't say at Fort Polk?
Well, I mean, I mean, I don't know if, as far as the audience goes, people who are watching this right now, I don't know the extent of how far they know about certain things, but there are governments, whether it's local, governments to, I know Washington is, the state is one, but even up in Canada, there's governments that will put down Sasquatch as one of the animals, creatures that are part of the quote unquote wildlife.
Yeah.
It's like, is it really just wildlife?
Right.
Are we, what are we dealing with here?
Yeah.
But it's in, I know Washington's famous for theirs. And I think I heard people say that it was meant to be tongue in cheek, but the fact is it's there. But also just the family that was here last week, a father-daughter from Canada, they actually brought a piece of paper showing, I think it was from one of the schools, because I think it was that she was a teacher, or her friend was, but it was a piece of paper that was in the schools, was showing the different wildlife, and one was the Sasquatch. It depicted right there. It wasn't even just a word; it's the picture of it. So it wasn't a typo,
Yeah.
And I think Jack has it over there. Yeah, can you bring it over here? I want to just show it to him. But it's this is actually, I think, part of their school system or something like that, the 7 teachings, and it's these animals that have wisdom, courage, and the Sasquatch is one of the animals that they were showing. I think it was honesty for Sasquatch or something like that.
Yeah, it's honesty for Sasquatch.
And so, if everything's inverted, we would say deception.
Yeah, I think it means the opposite of that.
Yeah, but I find it interesting because it's like the lines get blurred when we hear these stories that you're sharing to what we've heard on the show before. And it's like there's a very physical nature, but then there's the Native American, these are spirits angle, and then there's the government creating these things angle. And I wish I had the best verbiage to say, but all I can say is it's all of it. And humans are learning how to manipulate the spiritual in the physical. Maybe that's the best way. Maybe that's that. Maybe that's the home run right there.
I think you nailed it. I think you really nailed that in the way to explain that in one sentence.
Yeah.
Really.
So case closed. Show's done. I'm gonna go drive truck again.
Yeah. No.
Case cracked. No, I'm not doing that. I'd much rather be a farmer.
Right.
I think if I ever do a career change, I'll be the preaching farmer.
Yeah.
So
that'd be good.
Be a good life, right?
Yeah, I think it would.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind
Grow
that.
some corn. Scare raccoons away from my food.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know how good of a preacher I'd be, but I'd like to do the farm thing if it was viable.
I'm not a great preacher either, but I still do it.
Yeah.
I've been slapped on the hand enough not to, that because I wasn't doing it.
I do it in the capacity that the Lord's given me. So
Amen. Yeah. So all right, let's talk about the killing, the dead Bigfoot. I want to talk about that. I don't know much details about it. This was part of the info dump that Jenny gave me before we went live here.
Okay.
So I literally wrote down Saul. I was just rapid fire writing. So this is literally what it says: Saw Army dead Bigfoot special training. I don't know what any of that means, but
boy, okay.
But maybe you do.
I know exactly what that is. Yeah,
you're giving her the side eye.
No, that's okay. It's just like funny, you know. She knows a lot of things about me. She draws it out of me, you know.
Yeah.
I don't talk about it, but she asks questions and I tell her, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so this would have been when I was in the Army. This is the second one that I saw. I was being pushed through certain training cycles that I wasn't actually signing up for, but my superiors thought I'd be good in these capacities from what they could see out of me, and leadership qualities that they liked, and just the way I operated and my demeanor and just dedication. You know, I was serious professional in my soldier role, you know, and so they would sign me up for these special classes. I mean, it was stuff like, why are you putting me in an armor class? You know, I mean, I'm not trying to be an armorer, but they do things like that. And I went to different schools and different trainings they send me on, and they had me doing cold weather training in Alaska. And there was a mountain division up there. I wasn't attached to them or working with them, but they were there or near in training or whatever they were doing, you know, in hindsight. But and I think they were out of Fort Collins, I believe, for some reason. And we were out there 2 nights, I think. You know, it's just mostly what cold weather training, what I was going through is how to survive, because your biggest enemy is weather and the cold, and you know that it's not, and you know, of course, the combat aspect is secondary pretty much, because you're gonna die from the elements, you know, if you don't know how to survive it. So we're going through that, and we're miserable. You know, it's a miserable thing.
Yeah.
And so I think we had just done the dip in the frozen water, and then learning how to get the fire going and taking your stuff off, and, you know, 10 below zero. And we just pretty much got over that day. And it was, I think, the third day we heard all these 50 cal rounds going off, you know, like the M2s. You know, the ones that are mounted. And we're like, we're just thinking they're training, and it's not far off. It's, you know, it's close enough. It's got to be within a mile of us. And I guess we decided we're going to wrap it up. Our team leader, which he was the lieutenant, told us we're going to go back, and because I guess for some reason he had some kind of indication that wasn't supposed to happen, and he was kind of a little concerned and like, what is happening? Because he knows more than we do. He's an officer. They're, you know, more informed about what's happening. We don't know. We're just doing what you tell us, you know. So we go back to where our camp is, and we have those GP tents, you know, set up, and generators and everything. We go back, you can get a hot meal and everything. And the lieutenant says, I'm going to go find out what that was about. And he just lets us, you know, do whatever we got to do to kind of regroup, because we're going to go. we thought we were going to go back out for another training, cycle of 3 or 4 days. And he said, he came back, and I was like one of the people he trusted the most. And he said, I need you as a witness. Come with me. And then he picked another guy that was, I was in charge of my squad, and another guy in charge of another squad. And so he picked him, and he said, come on, I got authorization to go check something out in a tent that wasn't there when we first got there several days before. And I don't know what he said, but he said, I was a little, he said, we're going to look at something. He said, I got a little bit of information that, but he said, if you see anything out of the ordinary, we need to keep this, we have full, like full, he was saying full disclosure, just, we keep it between us, and any debriefing or anything, we'll talk about that later. But he wanted some witnesses with him. And we go in this tent, and there is crates, and these crates are like, they're huge shipping crates, military, and they were like 4 feet by, like 4 by 4, some like pallet size, but and they're like, like 3 or 4. They're kind of like a cube, really. And I don't remember what was packed. Random stuff. Well, there was. So you got 4 of those, right, in a line, and you got 4 of those over here. So you can imagine what that platform is, right? You got 4, you got 8 feet wide, and then you got, 16 feet long, 4, 8, yeah. Well, there was something on this that took up, not that whole thing, but a big, huge part of that whole platform, which is 8 by 16, and it was covered up. And it stunk to high heaven, even though it was 10 below zero. And it was totally cut. And there was armed soldiers, like, it was like 6 of them inside, and there was like 8 of them outside that were armed. And we're like, man, this is like kind of, we don't see this every day, something like this. There's something important here, obviously. And so we go in there, and there was one of it wasn't our commander, but it was their battalion commander, light colonel. He said, here you go. It's right here. And he pulls it back down to, maybe bottom of the chest. And it was a Bigfoot that they had killed with that 50 cal. And it looked similar to the one I saw in Louisiana, but it was even bigger. It had to be, I gotta say, it had to be maybe close to 12 feet, the way, judging from those crates, how big I know they are. And then 8 feet wide. It wasn't much on either side of it, a foot maybe on either side of its shoulders. Like 7 feet, 6.5 feet wide. I mean, and the head was, as big as any watermelon you've ever seen, just huge. Arms, I only saw it up to here, but it had one hand up kind of this way, and it had a bullet hole through its hand. Had like 3 holes I could see in his chest, and one in his neck. It probably had more all over. It was probably riddles, but But it stunk so bad. I mean, it was almost, wanted to vomit, it was a mixture of, and being so cold, had a little bit of layer of frost on it. It's kind of a blonde color.
The hair is blonde.
Blonde. Kind of a blonde. Yeah. Well,
female or male?
Male.
Male.
I didn't see that, but I'm 99% sure it was a male. There was no breast, like I'm sure, like Patty, you see,
right.
It wasn't, it was like very like
built.
Yeah. Pecs, arms were, I don't know, twice as big around as my leg, my thigh, at least twice as big in the arms, just massive. I mean, it's nothing ever, that was all there was to that. There was nothing that ever come of that. Our lieutenant said, okay, he had some kind of reason why he needed to do that, but he didn't exactly tell us why.
To look at it or show you?
To show us. I guess he wanted it in his paperwork or his report that we were, but it wasn't supposed to be ever talked about or mentioned. We were told, of course, after I got out and everything, we do have like sort of what they call disclosure agreements for things like that. They can come back on us and, disciplinary actions and things. But I think after 10 years, I think that's not even a thing anymore, from what I was told.
Anyway. What year was this?
80. It was just 83. It was, the winter of 83, 84. Yeah, it's 83, 84. Huh?
I was born in 85. Just gotta stick you a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I'm up there now. I'm up there.
Man.
So
yeah. It wasn't just you and him. It was like a whole group.
Well, it was me him, the officer. Well, yeah, there was many other, but as far as our squads went in our platoon, we were the only 3 that saw it. And I had to sign something too, saying that I witnessed that. And so did he. And his whatever, I don't know why he had to do that, or why he thought he had to do that. Maybe it was, I don't know, just to run it up the line and see where it goes. I don't know. He's a lieutenant. He's a low-level officer anyway, so I don't know. But we had a lieutenant colonel, though, show us what occurred there. Maybe he did suggest that for his benefit too. I don't know. They compartmentalize so much in the military. I had a top secret clearance, but they only tell you what they want you to know. That's right. They don't go any further than that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it. That was it on that.
It's not it. I have a question.
Yeah. I mean,
So because you're up close to it. How far were you standing from it, the body?
Like from me to you.
Okay. So you see enough detail. What does skin look like? Could you see the skin? Like,
leathery.
So what was it? Black skin or?
Yeah, this one was.
Okay, so
the other one
hair,
wasn't.
Black skin.
The other one wasn't.
The one you saw on the.
They looked similar though. I mean, feature wise.
Okay.
But skin and hair were the difference, big differences, and the eyes were partially open and they were black.
Okay.
Couldn't see any whites. Just like a big demon. Black eyeballs,
like a big old demon.
Yeah, I know. They look like if you look. Yeah, that's exactly what you get in your mind is And when you look in the eyes of these things, that's a demon there, man. You know. Yeah,
and that's where the compartmentalization mentally goes for people too, because it's like, okay, you're saying demon, but how can you shoot and kill a demon? And that's like, it's like you're asking the wrong question, because it's not like the how is unanswerable. Right. I don't know how to answer that, but I can tell you that these things are not just shadows in a house, like because I think that's where the mentality goes when it comes to demonic things. It's immaterial, it's wispy, it's a shadow, it darts across the room real fast. Maybe it closes a door, throws something off a shelf, but it's not physical, and it certainly can't be killed. And that's I think that's the direction that we typically go. And maybe for good reason. Maybe that what we're talking about here as that's demonic, that's a demon. Maybe there's different classifications. Maybe there's different, there's so many different variables that can go into it.
Right. There is a lot of variables that you have to consider with this too. They obviously can be killed in certain capacities, certain conditions or certain something. Sometimes they can, because I heard before I started talking about, and I was researching about my Dogman encounter, I heard nobody was killing them. They were shooting at them and hitting them, and nobody was able to kill one. I'm like, well, I did. I don't know what the problem is. I mean,
it's easy. I'll do it again.
I mean, that's the way I was like,
where's my coal?
Why could I do it?
Yeah.
And nobody else can. One reason is copper, I believe. Copper, if you look into apocryphal texts and biblical texts, copper is poisonous to Nephilim. There used to be ancient people that could only kill giants with copper weapons. They couldn't kill them any other way. And there was that. So these were the things that God had put in my toolbox to get me through that situation, was that weapon and that ammunition, I believe. And, my wherewithal from my experience too, of course, but he guided me through that whole experience. For whatever reason, he wanted me to go through this and to live through it and expose whatever I can about these Nephilim creatures. That's what, I believe is basically what it is.
It makes you wonder how many of these missing 411 cases are situations where, because we talk about, like years ago when the missing 411 stuff was popping on the scene. It actually popped on the scene more before I even started my podcast, but early days of my podcast, the big talk was Bigfoot's taking people. Then it started introducing the idea of UFOs are taking people. And then it's like, well, maybe portals, and maybe people are shifting into portals by accident, and all that stuff's valid in my mind. But it does make you wonder how many people go missing and they become like a missing 411 case because there's some kind of government technology that is haunting and hunting people in national forests. Because that's where yours was, right? In national forest, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Manistee National Forest in Michigan. Yeah.
Makes you wonder.
I know it. And, I've listened to it. I don't think every one of those disappearances are necessarily caused by these cryptids, but I think the ones you don't hear about are the ones that don't make it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I was one of the ones that made it through one. And there's a lot to that when you peel back the layers of it that you can extract and learn from, that I think is important for people to know, willing to learn more about them, instead of dismissing them. It's more than on the surface. It's definitely deep biblical and scriptural behind it, in the learning process. If you don't go there, then you're never going to know what's going on. I believe you're going to be confused the
Yeah.
whole time. You know, I don't get it. Well, you look at how Bigfoot, until they started connecting it biblically for decades, were like, you know, clueless, you know, pretty much out there just hooting and hollering and banging on sticks on trees.
I'm looking for hair follicles, guys.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I maybe there's some merit to that, but I'm never going to go looking for them on purpose.
Yeah, well,
you know, I mean, I'm just,
so.
I know. I mean, I'm not saying if I got caught in.
If I had your experience, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah. If I'm not saying if I was in a situation, because I did help a guy. I mean, I think I helped him. I went back into an experience on purpose. The
year after.
Did you tell him anything?
You're talking about the guy that you went to his house because he had something going on his property?
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up.
Well, he
I'm glad
talked.
you did.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just thought of that when we were talking about this, and he knew I was a gun guy. You know, we talked guns, and he was interested in guns, and he liked to learn about guns and how to do. So, and we went to, you know, I'm just saying, we developed this friendship that, yeah, I considered him a pretty good friend. You know, we'd go to gun stores and I'd suggest things and stuff like that. Well, he said, you know what? He said, would you mind coming up to my property? And it's in the UP of Michigan. Him and his dad owned it for many, many years since he was little, I guess. And it was just him and his dad now. And they'd go up there, you know, it was a vacation, hunting spot, fishing. It's right near Lake Superior up in the UP, you know. And I'm like, yeah, that, you know, take this week, whatever weekend you want. And well, this is what started the whole conversation is he said, I got a Bigfoot up there messing with me and my dad. It's getting in like the feed thing for the dog, or it's in the shed, it's busting the door, and it's peeling the roof off of this thing building out here, and it's there's just all kinds. He just knows he's got a Bigfoot doing this.
And this is a year after you killed the Dogman.
About a year. Yeah.
And
about
and he has no understanding
anybody
your context of the matter.
No.
So he's just telling you he has a Bigfoot on property. He has no idea that you have any experience with this stuff.
I never told anybody yet. Nobody
How
knows.
the heck does that conversation even start then?
Well, because I'm a gun guy, and he wanted to.
He just felt comfortable telling you there's a Bigfoot on the property.
Yeah. He just because
these guys became friends, and
he
saw it.
He said he saw it. He knows it's a Bigfoot.
Okay.
He thought he saw a Bigfoot. That's here. We're going to get into that.
Yeah, let's do it. Sorry.
He was like, I saw something, man. I know it's a Bigfoot, right? I know it is because I saw it, and it's not a bear, and it's not anything like that. I said, are you sure? Because he said, you know, I get tapping on the house all the time. It's tapping on my house and waking me up, and tapping on windows and hitting the side of things, and everything he was telling me is what I've heard dogmen do. You know, I got these claw marks and scratches on my trees, and I'm like, Bigfoot don't do that I know of, and they don't tap on windows like that. I know dogmen, I've heard them do that quite a bit, tapping with their, you know, to mess with people. I've heard them just antagonizing people, and I've heard this is their MO more than a Bigfoot from what he's telling me. And I'm like, I didn't tell him. I think he has a dog, man. In my mind, I'm thinking he's got a dog, because I'm already, you know, neck deep in all this dogman stuff. And I'm like, he's got a dogman there, and that's not cool. You know, I think probably worse than a Bigfoot would be. And so I was a little concerned about him, you know, and I'm like, yeah, even though I'm like, every fiber of me is telling me, you know, well, you crazy, but I was compelled to go. didn't you just come up? I'll grill steaks and we'll have a good weekend. And
Had me at steaks.
I'm like, I'm up there in beautiful UP. Yeah, man, I'll do that for a weekend. I know but the reason why I'm going is like tugging me not to, but so we go up, I meet him up there. He got there. He said, I'll be there this time and on Friday. And, after we get done for the week, cause I was still doing the Monday through Friday, day cab. And he got done before I did. Cause you know how I do it. I come in later. So I met him up there later and we had a good night. We talked about things, at work and whatever, and, what's going on there. And it was a little bit dark when I got there. It's kind of getting dark and I didn't do any looking around yet. And so nothing happened that first night either, that out of the ordinary. But the second night we were there, it was Saturday. We started getting these bangs on the house, tapping on windows everywhere. And I'm loaded for bear, I got my Benelli M4 on the table right in front of the door. I have my Smith & Wesson 500 on the table. I have a 10 millimeter on me, on my belt, and all bear loads. Everything's bear loads, bear loads in the shotgun, bear loads in the 500, and bear loads in the 10 millimeter. And I actually have, I actually had copper in the shotgun. Actually, I had those actually, loaded for me, I still got some of them, but, I didn't tell him anything yet. I didn't tell him anything about a Dogman at all. I just let him think, this is a Bigfoot. He wants to get a picture of it. He wanted to get proof. And he just wanted to have, I think it was more, if I was there to help protect him, if something happened while he was trying to get some proof for himself or whatever the case may be. He just wanted to get proof with a picture, mostly from what I could gather, what he was talking about. And so we get all this activity going on. Something gets on the roof. We can hear it on the roof. And he's like, before I could say anything to him, we're at the table and the door going out. It's like the kitchen is right there. And he hears something on the roof and I hear it. And he's like, grabs his phone. He has his camera on his phone. That's what he's going to use. And he pushes record, I guess, as he's going out the door. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going out there. I didn't go out. He goes running out. It's dark. This is about 11:30 at night. And I just couldn't believe what went out. All I did, the door was open. It didn't have a screen or anything, but he left the door wide open. I just grabbed my Benelli and had it pointed at the door. I'm not going out there. If he didn't tell me anything, he just flew out the door and I hear a growl. I hear a growl. And it is a deep, like a wolf would growl or a dog, but very, very deep and just like it was huge. And I'm like, oh man, I'm just thinking, I know it's a Dogman now. I just know it is. And I hear a thud and I hear him screaming and he's running back and he's yelling. He's like, oh my God, he's coming back, and I don't know what all he's saying, and he comes flying in the door. I said, get on the floor, and I keep the M4 pointed at the door. I said, cover all the windows. Just cover the windows. He says, oh my God, man. It was just chaos for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
He said, that's a werewolf out there. Yeah, I saw it was in the tree. He had a flashlight too. He grabbed his flashlight and he shined it up, and then that thud I heard, like a huge thud. He come running. It jumped out of the tree and was chasing him.
It took pursuit of him.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it probably could have got him if it, excuse me, if it wanted to, But yeah, that freaked him out so bad that there was no other incident after that. I said, we're not going nowhere. We got to leave, man. That thing, there's a werewolf out, I was just trying to keep him calm. I said, just chill out. We got to keep everything together here. We're going to, you panic and things will get real bad, And at that time, I said, well, we just hang out here for the night and just stay awake and just watch things, And if you want, neither one of us could sleep, And we didn't even cook the steaks or did anything. He was going to do that, but we didn't do it yet. And so he ended up giving me the steaks and everything. And, and I took them and I'm like, I grilled them later, but anyway, that's kind of the gist of that. And he was, he sold that property. Like it was, he told me, like, I didn't see him all the time at work, but I talked to him on the phone. He'd call me and say, yeah, I sold that property. And we'd talk a little. I told him that's why one of the reasons I went up there is I was concerned about you, being a dog man. And it turned out that it was. I didn't see it, but I heard it. I heard it come out of the tree. And he said it was like a gray striped. And it was probably about 7 feet tall, because I asked him these questions, so it looked different than mine. It was a little smaller, but it was still big,
It's bigger than you and me.
Yeah. Yeah. And he said, so I told him, I did tell him about my thing after that.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the only one because of this situation. And I said, this is between me and you, but this is why I've had this happen to me, similar Dogman experience. And that's why I was investigating these things. And I knew I was pretty sure this is what you had going on up there. And he said, a neighbor was having the same kind of issues. Like, not real, but neighbors up there a mile away, but I think they were Amish, and they were having, like, their horses getting attacked or something, is what he heard. He didn't, like, know it for sure. And this was one of the reasons why he wanted to see if he could get this thing on camera and know for sure. He said he knew he got a glimpse of what he thought was a Bigfoot, but it wasn't, it was.
Did he get it on camera that night?
No.
He didn't have the presence of mind to.
No. Actually, we had to go out and look for his phone.
Really?
Out by the tree. He dropped it out there near
the next day, I'm assuming, not.
Yeah, the next day. Yeah. Yeah. When we were leaving.
Yeah.
He said, well, my phone's out there somewhere. And so we'll find it. Well, prior to this happening that day, I also observed some things. I went out and observed. I knew it was a dog, man, because I could tell. I got pictures that I showed Jenny. I still had on my phone of Dogman prints around there. I'm like, and I showed him, and I said, you see this? I look like a Bigfoot to you? He's like, no, what is that? I said, well, it's a cryptid. And I knew, I didn't want to freak him out too bad, Huge. I mean, they were you know, size of like a good sized saucer. Looked like a dog print, you know, like that big.
Yeah.
You know, and claw marks and trees busted in places you couldn't get equipment in to do, you know, and it's the claw marks more than anything. He said, Bigfoot's busting these trees over here. What? Look, go back in those woods, you know. And so we went back there together, and I was like, the more I looked, and I could see deep claw marks. Bigfoot don't do that I know of. And obviously that was a dead ringer for a Dogman, because he actually saw it and I heard it, you know.
So he got a glimpse of it before, which led him to think Bigfoot.
Right. But the coloring is all he saw, you know. He said it was that striped grayish.
Oh, okay.
What he did see, he thought it was like a grayish Bigfoot, you know.
So it's not like
he didn't see the whole thing. He just saw the fur in different like areas way back in openings of the forest. You know, we could see this moving.
Yeah.
You know. And so he said, yeah, that's the same thing, but that is a werewolf, man. You know. Yeah, it was pretty intense situation.
Yeah.
Right. So I put myself again in a situation like that. And
so you're not looking to do that again?
Well, I mean, I'm not saying I would never. I'm
my man. Welcome to the team.
Yeah.
You have a knack for getting yourself into situations that I've searched for. So you and me are going together. I'll just follow you.
Well, if the Lord leads me there, I can't say I won't go against His will. You know?
Yeah.
And that's what happened here too. You know, I just felt compelled. I need to. You know, it's my duty almost. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he sold the property in result of that. And I said, did you tell the new owner that bought that anything? Because that would be wrong if you didn't. He said, yeah, I did tell him. And they still bought it. And they
didn't believe him.
They didn't believe him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's probably. Yeah. I don't know if legally there's any issues there. Ethically, sure.
Mm-hmm.
It also depends.
But the new people, who knows what goes on? That thing could have moved on. He said it wasn't there forever. It was just in the past several months. You know, they had it since he was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Never had anything like this happen. You know, there's Bigfoot activity going on.
He has a lot going on.
Yeah.
I've heard that was one of the first areas that I heard of. That was Dogman territory years ago when I first started doing all this stuff. It was I heard the Upper Peninsula, and I didn't even know what the Upper Peninsula was. I was like, "Where's that?" And they're like, "Michigan." I'm like, "Oh." And I looked on the map. I was like, "Wow, it's really up there." You know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of Canadians that live south of the Upper Peninsula. You know,
they do. Yeah. There's a big Finnish population up there too, from the old copper mine and iron ore mines that back in the 1800s, early 1900s. And there's still like big Finnish communities and different ethnic communities that immigrated to work in those mines, and the descendants are still there.
Wow. So I gotta ask you, taking it all the way back to the beginning, and we're gonna do this all over again. No, I'm just kidding. You driving that road that night, you're familiar with it, so I'm assuming you could go right back to that location again.
Took Jenny there.
Have you?
I took John Bell there. He wanted to see it. Did I take anybody from? There was a crew. I didn't take anybody from that crew, did I? It's just John Bell. Yeah, I took Jenny and John Bell there. Yeah.
I'd love to see it one day.
Yeah, I can show you if you ever come up up there.
I mean,
I was real apprehensive the first time I went back there, though, and Jenny wanted to see it real bad, and we only, at the time, we were living like 20 miles away from there.
mm.
And, you know, Reed City's not far from where this happened, and so we don't live there now, but
So do you feel like there's something about you? Because I mean, I'm over here, I'm swinging and missing every time. You know, I'm like, I wish I would. I wish the Dogman would come out and you know?
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Come on, son. And you're out here and just like
it'll change you forever. I don't know if it's changed. It obviously and definitely changed me forever. I mean, that
was more dramatic than seeing the Bigfoot.
Oh man, yeah. It was, of course, it was really, it was more acceptable, I guess, for whatever reason, to see a Bigfoot, even though as crazy as that kind of a encounter is, it wasn't as scary for whatever reason, and I don't know why, but that Dogman is pure terror and hell.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's the aura and the appearance of it. It just exudes like kill, you know, like kill and maim and torture and I don't know, all the bad things, you know, you can think of. That's just what it exudes. And it's a scarier cryptid for sure. It's way worse.
Mm.
It's just so evil is all I got out of it. It's just a pure evil entity. You know, it was really bad for a while for me, you know, after that.
Yeah, it took you down some pretty dark mental holes.
For a while, until I started realizing that I needed more of God's help with that than I thought. I didn't know anything about him. I thought it was just in a way, I knew it wasn't an animal. I had some, I did have an indication, the way it felt to me, that it was like something that was spiritual of nature.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't. But then I'm like, how could that be? You know, I wasn't schooled enough yet on that. I never delved into that topic that deep. You know, I mean, I knew about what is said in the Bible about stuff, but I didn't connect it yet. You know, I didn't connect it to this yet until I did a lot more of my own research and finding out what really these things are at their core. You know, there's just not a random cryptid that's here for whatever reason. You know, they're definitely here for a reason, and it's to serve, you know, the evil side of things and the dark realm, you know. They're not of God.
So, before we started recording, the idea of what runs through your blood, and I said you look like a Viking. Do you think that your heritage might be something that is that like I don't know how to say it, because I mean there are people who go their entire lives not only not seeing a cryptid but not believing in cryptids, and there's people like you, and you're not the only one. There's people like you who aren't looking for it; it finds you throughout your life.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, maybe you, because I mean, we're friends with Martin Groves, Barton Nunley, so maybe you've gone out in the woods now and gone crazy with swords and stuff with Barton, you know, but because I think he wants to kill one with the sword or a spear. Was it
sword?
We were talking. I gotta get him on sometime.
Yeah,
but like, do you think that like there's something about you?
Yeah, well, Jenny especially does think so. She's looked into my heritage a lot more than I have, and studied it a lot. I'm not, whatever. I'm not like big into that too much, but it is interesting. What she's found out about my heritage is that I come from a long lineage of warriors. Like, I'm tied to DNA that they've dug up, and going back to like 4,000 plus BC, 2,000 plus BC, about 4,000 years, 25 something.
A long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And there's a shield maiden in there, if you know what that is.
Describe what a shield maiden is.
Well, there is a female warrior, like Celtic. I think that was. I'm not sure on the details, but I do know that it was. Maybe Jenny could come up with some of these details. She studied it. I haven't studied it as much, but she connects these things to me. And there's other things about me too that sometimes I can see, like I was just discussing this earlier, we were discussing that I can see like the spectrum a little bit more than other people.
What do you mean by that?
Like,
like auras?
The spectrum of colors.
Okay.
And the range of like infrared and
really
and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like a little, not always though. That's what's weird about it, I guess.
I want.
I don't know if that ties in anything. It's just something I was discussing. I was like, because I can sometimes see infrared. Sometimes.
Interesting.
I can see it. And we were talking, and he was saying that too. And when we were talking.
That's really interesting. I mean, like you saw a Bigfoot with a group of guys, but like, I wonder if there is some kind of perception that you have the ability to see things that maybe others wouldn't.
That's just something that came to my attention.
That's interesting.
I never really gave that a whole. I didn't even really realize it that much either until I started. Because there's times I can pick up on it, and other people I can't always see it. But there are times. I don't know if it's the angle or I don't know. But I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I think that's really weird. I'm not supposed to. Am I? I mean, I don't think we are.
Oh no, I'm just a podcaster, man.
I'm just a truck driver.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, I don't want to say you're weird. It's just odd. It's different. Like it just makes you wonder how and if it ties into anything.
That's what that's just something that came to my attention. I don't even know what to think about that. And it just, I just started thinking about it just, as we were coming in here. I never thought about that. Maybe there is something to that as well. And why that is maybe, who knows, in my lineage and heritage of things, a shield maiden is somebody of high stature. They're buried with their 2 horses and all their wealth and their armor and their weapons and their females, and they're like a chieftain in a way.
1,000-year-old shield made of burqa.
Wow. It's a rare thing.
Yeah, it's pretty rare too, I guess. And that's just one thing. There's a bunch. It's just chock full of this kind of stuff that's tied to my DNA, like thousands of years up to today. Even my dad, my grandfather, my I mean that I know from my modern history, So, yeah, she puts more thought into it than I do.
That's okay.
I don't
like. I have. I think we can only take in so much, and we can, like,
I'm sure there's something to it.
Yeah,
I'm sure there is, because it is weird.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like, even in the name, there's things that, like, people overlook that stuff a lot. I did for many years, and I recently found out what I thought the last name Merkel meant isn't what it means at all.
Oh.
And the actual meaning of it is like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And the fact that I was adopted into the last name Merkel is even more divine than anything. And so, like, your last name, it carries weight. And so your bloodline, where you come from, it's part of you. It's like you're a walking sack of history,
My modern predecessors in this country have been here since the Revolution. The first one on my dad's side that came over here was a Hessian. You know what Hessians are?
No.
They're mercenaries. They're German mercenaries for England.
Wow.
He came over here to fight the colonies for the British. He was a mercenary.
Wasn't very good then, was he?
No, he was like, he was a traitor. He got over here. He's like, I'm a colonist.
Nice. Welcome.
Yeah. So that's how my dad's side started over here.
Wow.
And it's kind of been that lineage all along through the Civil War and everything. It's just
warriors.
Yeah. Yeah, and they all survived. I wouldn't be sitting here if any of them got killed through any of that.
You have kids?
Yeah. Yeah.
How many?
5.
5? It's interesting when you think about the fact that you wouldn't be here if they didn't. These other warrior, let's just call them warrior kings, didn't survive, right?
Yeah.
And now you're the most recent in time, and you survived a battle that who knows if your ancestors ever even could have fathomed.
Yeah.
Yeah. The lineage must carry on.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason why the lineage has to carry on. Whatever that reason is, we don't know, but only God knows,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a reason why he saved everybody through this lineage. To none of them. Unbelievable what my dad went through. He was in World War II in the infantry. But through the whole thing, he got wounded a bunch of times. He was in Italy. He was, in Africa. Yeah, all these theaters that he was like in the thick of it. And he has 3 Purple Hearts, and he has a bronze battle star, a couple of those, and a silver star, and he's pretty highly decorated too. But he got, he pretty much got kind of tore up a little bit. Shrapnel and Smeisner machine gun in the legs and things like that. But he lived through it. He lived, and I'm here. But he was old when I was born. That's why he'd be 103 if he was alive. And so I'm 62, so he was an older dude when I'm his oldest. So yeah,
you're his oldest.
I'm his oldest. Yeah, I got a sister younger than me.
Wow, he really.
Yeah, he got out of the military, did a career, eventually, his wounds, they put him out on a discharge a little early because he's just, it was just too much, to do the job. He's getting older, and then all the old wounds and stuff. And they said they just military gave him a medical, or a little early, but yeah, he was still, he was still physically able to do things, and he still did a lot of things. He wasn't like 100%, but he had a lot of aches and pains. He still had a lot of metal inside of him. It was always coming out, and he'd pick it out. When I was a kid, he'd be picking metal out of him, and he'd show me, "Hey, look, I got a piece of metal out of his leg and stuff."
Just it was always pushed to the surface.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, over the years. Yeah, that's how they can't get it all out, especially the smaller pieces that get.
Just run magnets over them for a while until they start coming to the surface.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's amazing that he lived through all that, and then as an old man, that I'm here and my sister's here, and so, and then my kids, they got their reasons for being here, and God has his plans. We don't know what they are, but he has his plans for all of us and all of our souls to be saved and be his children,